adding some more chairs.
Gonna have.
I had a lot of sleep last night
So
too.
if
I shouldn't be
is
this
a
tired.
joint Meeting.
I think sometimes you get more tired because you don't get enough sleep and then all the chemicals kick in and then you get enough sleep
Yeah.
and they go away, but.
When I say I got good sleep, that means I got 7 hours last night.
Oh,
That's a lot for
yeah,
me.
Oh,
what you're saying about joint meeting?
nope, not anymore.
Oh,
See,
okay.
Jim Richards is there. You,
Right, I'm trying to-
you two are
Oh,
not
thank
voting
you.
members, though. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Frank. I'm a
So-
voting member. I'm a voting, yeah, 1, 2, Jim.
3, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I'm like, who else are we missing? Pat and Mike.
So, trying to join the number station. Okay, I gotta join the right meeting. I'm waiting for, I've got boots there,
That's what always helps me.
and then we'll be good.
Just. Okay. we done.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Sure.
Can't believe Carl left his earring. I gave that.
The pretty one with the diamonds.
Yeah.
It's been kicking around for a while, but, yeah.
Special one.
Found it in the parking lot, brought it into him.
That's
I'm gonna keep it forever.
Oh, okay.
You know, relationships are what they used to be.
I know, right?
Friends come and go.
So I was like, what if it's real diamonds, you know? I could have given him a lot.
Yeah,
Or
we
yourself.
get clapped.
Hello.
Oh, my. Hello, Pat. How are you?
You got it.
Oh, okay. I don't feel so bad then. Yeah. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure I could. Yeah, we've been having some fun times just there.
Guys. Yeah.
No, he said, what sounded it. Last board meeting, he said, yeah, this is my idea. But he's out visiting his sister. And it's my fault. He told me when we talked about scheduling this and then I blanked. So I told him I'd fess up.
Do you have a note?
Claire made sure of that. And Joe stepped up. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for long days, I'm sure.
So we have everybody I was expecting.
You're up?
Oh, you called me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Um. My name is Michael Clausen, Chair of the Capital Improvement Plan Committee, calling this special joint meeting of the Select Board to order October 8th, 2025, 6:30 PM. And we'll go down through the agenda, any adjustments or additions or deletions to the agenda from anyone? All right, before we go, how about we just go around and just introduce ourselves, probably for
It's a great idea.
everyone, as well as in case anyone's happening to be listening. I'm Michael Clausen, Chair of the Capital Improvement Plan Committee.
Capital Improvement Plan Committee.
Angie Morano, Capital Planning Committee.
Lisa Keyworth, capital planning committee.
Bill Latimer, Vice Chair, Select Board.
Corinne Julo, town clerk.
Pat Cox, Capital Planning Committee.
Claire Lavoie, select board member.
Tim Bourne, select board.
Harry Parker, Select Board.
Thank you, everyone. That one. All right, any public
Jim Richards, capital plan.
Can't do.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I
covered him up.
did not do that on purpose. I was trying to make sure I could share because I've had Zoom issues.
Usually a blank screen is my best side.
And that's not true, come on. It says glasses there, it said.
All right, any public comment or comments from the public? Do we have anyone present?
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely not, so, item number 4, review ranking model. That'd be, helpful, perhaps, for the select board members to, maybe refamiliarize themselves or get any questions about the ranking model that was developed, as part of our process for, evaluating, project submissions, through, our, annual process. And let's see what you have for attachments. Is this the?
Want this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a 3-page narrative that Frank and I worked on, and it's basically the first tab of the ranking model that we've all been working off of. So I took the first tab and put it in the packet to kind of allow everybody to have a basic review before we got started with the numbers.
Mhm.
Because, and I took a screenshot, I took the liberty of taking a screenshot of part of this and putting it in the packet. I believe it stops at column I, so if we want to really dive in, depending on how much the select board wants to know and understand the ranking.
Page.
Oh, thank you. I was looking for.
The narrative's on the back page.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Maybe he's getting copy. There it is.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you have folks on the select board had a chance to read, this information or if it's, remember from last year about the approach we took with the ranking. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes, you're
Yes.
familiar with it?
Yes, yes.
So Frank, actually is the one who, put most of the time and effort into, developing ranking model and we sort of tweaked it as we, sort of ran different projects through it to see what the results were. You want to give like a little bit of overview?
Sure.
That kind of.
So the methodology that we decided to use is something that is, it's a very, very good technique. It's very powerful. It's great at comparing apples to oranges. So we've got things that are very unlike each other. You can score them in a way that helps you compare them. It's not perfect, but it has a lot of applications. One of the drawbacks, like any statistical analysis, is that bias can be introduced either intentionally or not. And if that's the case, when you start these, it's important to make sure everybody understands the decisions you've made and how the model works and why you made the decisions that you made. And we thought it was a good idea to just go back through that to make sure that this is really the first full year of activity for the committee, and make sure that we all understand what it is. And if there's any input, we'd love to get that as well. We're always looking to make it better. If you think that we could have done something differently, we'd love to hear that too. But basically we wanted to have a tool that would allow the select committee, the select board to, have something numerical in front of them. And something that the taxpayers could review and how you come to the decisions that you've come to. There are projects that are going to be on here that may score very high, but there are other projects that might score low that take priority based on, what your decisions are. So basically, using the Appendix D forms that are filled out by the departments for each project, we take that and we load it into the model. And we have really two main criteria. One is the reason for the project, why do you want to do it? And number two is how we're going to pay for it. There's an opportunity to put in up to 3 answers for each of those categories. So certainly the idea is that if something solves a lot of problems, that it's going to score high. If something has its own funding or easy funding, then it will score even higher. And we went through, and on page 2 of this narrative, at a high level, we wanted to go through really the reasons for why we might be ranking and how things might be ranked. So we're really focused on rules and regulations, safety, legal liability, and then getting into things like, improving services, maintaining services, if they're reducing costs, whatever it is. And so we rank those 1 to 10. We added point values to those. And that's used in the model. Down below on that same page, you'll see that there is a similar chart for funding source. So sources that are grants and donations score very high. Others that are funded by fees also score high. And then certainly projects where we have to take out debt or a bond are going to score the lowest in terms of the financial aspect of it.
And the reserve fund is the town reserve fund, not individual committee reserve funds. Is that correct?
No,
Yeah, I mean, it's really meant to be the department's reserve fund. And, we look at,
So if they have a reserve fund, they're gonna score high on this.
That's right.
great. Okay.
here's the example in the library, all the projects are being done by their own reserves in the libraries.
Yes.
I don't know how that scored, I don't remember how it scored, but
And the money's in the reserve.
money's in the
And the
reserve fund,
money's in the
and it's
reserve fund,
earmarked.
yes.
It's already in
Okay.
there and earmarked.
There's one thing, and you just show, and it's not, this is an amazing tool, and it keeps
Mhm.
everything level, which is really important when you're standing in front of people.
Mhm.
Trying to explain all of this. But there's one thing that that may comes to mind as I'm sitting here thinking about it. We've talked about it a little bit at the committee, but I don't think it's ours to solve. It is with so many of these projects, and the library is a good example. They're not really, with the exception of the shed was a good one because we're getting money for the books.
Yeah.
But most everything else is related to how do we maintain the asset that's the building,
Mhm.
right? The carpeting, the painting, the roof, the flooring, and that. Almost at some point in your discussion going forward, probably may deserve a different schedule, not related to potentially related to capital funding, but also have its own schedule of maintaining the town assets in perpetuity, particularly as we're expending, significant dollars going forward for some major buildings. How do you maintain those buildings over time that ties into capital expenditures, but may only be something like replacing a floor or replacing a roof? So I'm sorry, but
And we're maintaining older buildings.
extremely,
Yeah.
and some of them, we're catching up.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
we
just
already have a solar plant in place for this building,
Yes, it's a good one, yeah.
right? And so
Yes, yeah.
if different municipal subdivisions are contemplating their own maintenance schedules, and they know when they have those expenses coming up, perhaps there's a way for us to make that data available to this committee, or to treat it separately when it comes time for budget requests from most committees. They can just say, here's our here are our CIP projects, and then here's our 5-year maintenance plan. These are things that must be done. These are things that we would like to have done. I don't know. That is something the select board could probably take up.
Yeah, the model tries to capture maintenance from a given project, but not the overall asset.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
just,
there is, related to the project, we do ask for a maintenance, maintenance projection, but.
Yeah.
That's just for that
not
project.
not the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, and what we're really asking, I guess, is for individual boards to do the work to keep all of this up, because our program says that you won't be included in the budget unless I'm thinking. Doesn't the CIP say, we just recently reviewed this, that if we're gonna contemplate your capital project. I'm totally blanking, I'm sorry. I did too much talking today. Stop, I'm wasting your time.
Going though for it is that one of the ideas behind the concept of this committee is that to get the boards and committees to thinking, down 5 years down the road or thinking long term. So that if they know that in 5 years we have to replace something, and it's a must do, that needs to be brought to everyone's attention 5 years prior, for example, so that you can plan on that, we know that that's out there. And if they have money in their budget to start, dedicating some of those resources toward that, to sort of earmark that for this future need. As opposed to coming to the select board one year and saying, oh, well, by the way, we have this $20,000 expense. Well, we knew about it 5 years ago, we're telling you today.
Yeah,
It's too
and,
late.
and instead of telling us to take money out of our reserves,
Right.
right? The strategic reserves are there really for emergent need.
Right.
And
Yeah.
most of these planned expenditures should not rise to that level.
Correct.
It's just something to continue for you to consider as you put that kind of long-term structure in place.
Thank you, Michael, that was perfect.
Exactly what you said.
So when you were talking about the reserves, reserve fund, if it's coming out of the reserve fund, it gets a 3. And my concern would be, the taxpayer saying, this is going to raise our taxes. And if we're using the reserve, it shouldn't really be coming out of your taxes, but how do we put it into the budget without that going off?
Just a little pushback on that. If we deplete our reserves and we get below our maintenance level, then we will be raising taxes to
Yeah,
replenish the
sure.
reserve.
Yeah,
So there will be an impact. I mean, you'll
Yeah.
feel it if we're constantly looking to the reserve fund for these projects. So.
I think the idea of the reserve fund is to save the money over a period of time so that it's not the spikes and the tax rate,
Yes,
right? So
yes,
that we
yes.
got a spike, we need $100,000 for this roof, we don't have any reserve, so it's gonna come out of the taxpayer, we have to raise taxes and then it drops because we don't need that $100,000 next year.
Right.
Keeping that reserve level, that reserve fund, kind of levels out that tax rate, so it's not the.
Right.
And you plan, like Michael said, we plan for it,
Right.
so.
So any other questions about, model? Or how it's currently being used, or thoughts about how we can improve its, function?
I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
I
mean, It looks like you definitely put a lot of thought into it. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be doing, is helping us to forecast when the buildings need repair, when vehicles need to be replaced. Or buildings need to be replaced, so, I mean, you're doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
Well, thank you.
I just want to say how lucky we are to have Frank's expertise on this.
That's an understatement.
I know, I attended a CIP forum, I can't remember when, it was the spring maybe. And the guy they had a national speaker come, he was the first one, and he got up, and one of the things he said was, you should have one of these, and he showed DCs and talked about how rarely they actually exist in groups that are trying to do this. And I was just sitting there like, well, Hero has one.
It's only North Hero and DC.
I don't know if we want to be in that crowd, but
The only thing that we common.
hopefully. But thank you, Frank.
True.
Yes, thank you. Put a lot of time into it.
All right, do we want to talk about the CIP ranking model 26.7, next tab?
That's what's up.
That's what's up, right?
Yeah,
So I don't know if you let us have to look at this or if we want to sort of generally walk through it in terms of how it's structured, but going across the top of the department.
So just
Yeah, go ahead.
mathematically again, while there is if you look at the charts that, we have the ranking, the point values, and as far as funding, grant money and donations score the highest. Grants also get boosted because it's free money, and donations, you don't always know exactly what you have to work with. But if you have a grant, it also gets an extra boost by the percentage contribution of that grant to the overall cost. Okay? So if it's 48% contribution, it's multiplied by 1.48. to boost that up.
Okay.
And so certainly that would be an incentive to find more grants, but also trying to, you know, highlight the items where there's free money available and we can take advantage of it.
Is this just the way something was written on here and I didn't notice it before because I probably couldn't see it in my small print, but community hall, carpet replacement, if you follow it across, it says maintains existing service, right? If you go down to the little library, carpet replacement,
Safety help.
it says safety and
health.
health. Not that it
It could.
matters, it's in the refer.
It could be that it's deteriorated to the point where it's become more urgent and it is a safety concern. You know, if you have tears in it where people are gonna trip and fall, things like that, I can see it from that standpoint.
No, I think I just wonder
But-
why this from a health and safety perspective, like wherever those three are, but those three where it caught my eye because it said, you know, safety and health. And then I looked to the left and said, oh, that's interesting.
But didn't
I
this?
think the appendix D,
Yeah.
look at
Explains
those,
it better.
we'll see that they're
Yeah.
different,
Yeah,
right? It's the
Yeah.
same,
I just wanted to know
same
those.
project, but different reasons given
it's-
by the department.
But I guess that's I think that's, I.
We didn't reconcile it. I'm not looking to
No,
edit people's work.
No, I don't think
but-
so, but I think it's an educational opportunity for us to take back to the various departments that are filling these
Right.
out to make sure we have some consistency in the definitions we're giving them, because that might have been my error.
Cause in my mind, if I was looking at that, I would think that that should be above the community hall. Because community
just
hall
safety,
routine,
health.
this is a safety issue for the public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
perfect.
and I thought they're kind of the same thing, but so it's something I think that we need to
Okay.
do a better job of, because it doesn't make.
Would you
Anyway,
mind just-
Yeah, the community hall scored higher because of all the grants, right?
Right.
yeah.
And that's what you gotta look at.
Right.
Yeah, no, that wasn't it was just this.
So it continues to be safety and health, and
Health.
safety and health, and maintains.
Yeah, it's just,
So I
it's
guess
just,
like, it looks like two reasons were provided. First
Mhm.
reason being safety,
You're
and
right.
the second reason
Right.
being.
yeah, as opposed.
Maintaining existing service.
As opposed to we look at the ranking and say, let's use existing services because the rank is different potentially. It's just one of those, you know,
Mhm.
bitches that you figure out over time, at least the department directors. And
Interesting.
you can kind of game the system.
Do we wanna
not
keep
the
going?
employees.
Sure, if you scroll over to the right.
Mhm.
Like here's where you break down the fundings, sources, which obviously have a big impact.
So the peach color is where we're getting the scores from all the different categories. We're adding the grant percentage booster, we're getting a total project score. And then we do get a ranking from the department on their priority. So we put that in. But then based on the project score, we then rank it in, you know, a 1 to X. Back a little farther back to the left, one of the earlier columns, right next to the department score.
Way back.
Yes, there
Department
we go.
priority.
G and H. So in CIP priority, that's where we rank it based on what's going on there. We do use a formula that breaks ties. And sometimes there are ties, natural ties.
Mhm.
Can you go to the right, yes, please?
Wanna win.
Um, oh, Grant percentage, no, that wasn't it. Funding source,
Is that one, yeah.
keep going, okay, the booster.
Yeah.
Grant percentage booster, can you go over that again?
Sure. So can you just go back to the left a little, please?
Mhm.
So here so we have the total cost in column 2. And then in yellow, we're breaking down grant amount. And then we're basically doing the math to see how much of that total cost is covered by the grant. So we come up with a percentage. And then we want to, a higher percentage coverage. We want to give a higher boost to. So we basically just add that percentage to 1 and multiply by that
okay.
percentage.
Got it.
Probably why the community hall ranked higher than the library, even though the library carpet is a safety issue, is because
Mhm.
community hall.
Exactly.
Yes, and there are some inconsistencies with how the model works based
Yeah,
on it.
that's
It's
fair.
really looking at it purely numerically.
yeah.
But it also
I'm not-
sends a very strong message to some of these other committees that if you really want things done, you should look for money
Mhm.
outside first, which
Yes.
is really what we would like to promote. Especially with the amount of money that the state has out there.
Any other questions or comments?
If anybody's like on a long road trip and you're thinking about this, send it to me, email it to me or whatever, you know, we'll take all feedback, positive or negative.
Pretty important, we just, they just chose the wrong.
This is a very valuable tool. Obviously, you can see all the data that's
Mhm.
embedded into it and the way it calculates. And there was a fair amount of discussion amongst the committee as well. And so we think of, probably every meeting we have, we think of another nuance. We have to sort of parse out. Sometimes we talk ourselves off the ledge and just forget about it.
Well, I've seen a few from a few different corporations now, and you guys did a really excellent job. Very well thought out, very well done, very well analyzed.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to item number 5, the 5-year capital plan, FY 26-27 annual capital budget.
We can see Jim now.
Oh, you're muted.
He's good.
Do you want to bring that up?
Oh.
Please.
This one.
So in order to be consistent, I am going to show the version. Okay. That was attached to the CIP agenda when this was approved by the CIP. Does that make sense? So it's not an actual Excel, it's so,
Somebody can make it a little bit bigger. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
I certainly can. What do you think? Let me get rid of that.
You get rid of that blue banner on top with the X next to view summary.
Over
Maybe
right
that'll
right
open up
side.
the panel a little
Get
bit
rid of
bigger.
that. I don't get rid of this.
They won't let you drag it anywhere.
Brilliant.
There you go.
If you want, I can zoom in more and we can
Take
just
one more, yeah.
scroll around.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Oh.
Okay.
And the lines that are highlighted in the golden color are, what's the distinction on those?
Pre-CIP, so they were in place before the
Correct.
CIP committee was formed. So basically, the fire department, public works garage, and then the water projects, keep it down. So they were all pretty much in place and already in progress prior to the committee. So it breaks it down by project and under which fund. So at the top was the general, and then the highway fund, restoration, and the library, and then the water under the enterprise fund. So same projects from the model,
Mhm.
and this is what year that the money would be spent. And then where the money is coming from. And the funding summary on the bottom shows you by year what will be spent. In red is where we don't have funding for. Which
Those
is
are preliminary, right?
preliminary, right? The $15,000 for 2026 are the radar signs that the select board is looking into. And the 43,000 for 2027 is the Pilots Boardwalk project that is still being discussed of what needs to happen there. And they are trying for a grant. And putting it on the capital improvement plan shows the grant agency in the state that the town is supporting it, so.
And we can talk about that project under the next.
Yeah,
item.
under the next item, but yeah.
This gives us sort of a broad overview of everything that's been submitted, as well as those, as Lisa just said, that were already in place prior to the formation of this committee. So this will be somewhat of a living document. Will get updated on an annual basis, or as project expenses come in and funds are expended. This will just change.
Mhm. Every year we'll drop off the previous year, we'll add the next year, and we'll just keep moving.
So is this the way it's going to be? Does the select board have a say, or the budget could drive it also?
So the committee's put all this information together for you to look at and analyze, and those are the decisions that
Your
you,
tool.
it's your tool to use to decide exactly whether the projects go forward, they don't go forward, how we're gonna fund those that aren't funded.
And I didn't check, but when it says, the reserves, are we zeroing out the reserves? No,
Not
so
necessarily.
it's Still.
No, no. But in the years that the projects hit, there is money in the reserve funds for all of them, except for the two. So,
So one of the things we'll do is look at this and decide how much of that reserve money is allocated
mhm,
for these projects.
mhm.
Okay.
And same reserve that the taxpayer may say. And I know there's new law on this one, the taxpayer may say, send it back to us
The
instead.
surplus. So, yeah. But these are all coming out of, like, libraries coming out of their capital fund.
Hmm.
The town office, the vault doors are coming out of the restoration fund. Those are all money that have already been assigned and set aside for those specific purposes, so taxpayers will not say, you gotta give that back. Public Works is coming out of the equipment, the capital equipment fund. And the community hall obviously has their capital fund. So Parks and Recreation and Public Safety would be the two that would come out of the general fund. Listers has the reappraisal, but they have a reappraisal fund. Fire station has their own, the North Station Building Replacement Fund.
Now, are we looking
Probably
at
should have separated.
schedules at all? First quarter, second quarter? To know when the money's coming out or when it needs to come out, or are we just putting all the projects up until we pick?
We put the projects in as they're submitted. We don't get down into that level of detail.
Okay.
And then we talk about this at the committee frequently, just in terms of most information will probably come through the town offices to Lisa and Corinne. And depending on when we meet, select board might get the information before we do, for example. And it also is incumbent upon the respective committee or department as to when they're reporting that information, when there's actual expenditure.
Yep.
Each money. So we really sort of look at it more on an annual basis, so to speak.
Right.
We certainly ask the departments if they have that information.
Mhm.
I think sometimes they don't, or it changes, and
We may get there one day.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we decided.
we've had that rabbit hole for a little while.
You guys have come a long ways in a couple of years, so.
Good discussions, though, good discussion. Necessary.
I mean, to look at the percentage of variance based on that almost $10.5 million number of total funding, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Representing.
Yeah.
And even I could just speak to the Parks and Rec, the Pilots Boardwalk project, just as an example. We as a committee understand and realize that the select board is never going to approve $45,000, whatever the number is, to replace all that. So we're actually, we're supposed to meet last night, but several people couldn't meet, so we pushed to next week. Our discussion is really going to be about coming up with alternatives to that boardwalk. It's just for some committee members that feel that, given that it's a state designated wetland, we probably shouldn't be doing anything in it. Given that, let alone spending $45,000 taxpayer. So we're at the next meeting, we're going to be having a conversation, discussion about coming up with a different plan or like pulling this from a request perspective formally would be my preference, and then work on coming up with another plan or alternative plan to do something else. So that's sort of to be determined. But we're fully aware that, you know, from a revenue perspective, that the chances are slim to none to get the town to support totally funding a project like this.
I would agree.
You had me at wetlands.
Any other questions or comments about
I hadn't
this?
thought about that.
I think having this tool where all the projects have to be put together and something, and allows a committee like Parks and Rec to realize, oh, this $45,000 would really have an impact, and look at the planning all these other committees are doing, really helps these kind of decisions happen organically without the select board having to be like, no.
I think it's also important, I think this is a good tool for other committees, looking at this and prioritizing what and when what they wanna do.
Who they're up against.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And like I said,
See it.
get their own money, because they know
Yeah.
they're gonna get a higher priority on the list.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, maybe a little bit of extra motivation.
It may help us sort of, as part of the educational process, again, how we, or how the department leaders choose to rank or fill in their documents, which is still a little bit of
Yeah.
a learning curve for them, right?
Mhm.
Just to continue to gain that kind of sharpness and the
Mhm.
consistency of what we're seeing.
And also,
Not too much
if I'm
model,
correct,
so.
this would not stop a committee from having some idea and getting a grant for it.
Absolutely.
And to the education, Lisa does a lot of
He
one-on-one.
does.
Um,
He can.
yeah,
If I can interject here, Ashley, I'll also say this at the end, but I'll say it again at the end, but I'm gonna say it right now. Our committee could not function without Lisa Corinne and the work that they do.
There's no doubt.
Lisa, all the work they do at creating this time.
100%.
Like everything we couldn't function. I'm sure the select board probably feels the same way.
Brought up to the select board. Exactly.
You've been involved enough to understand that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because they're in the town hall, so like the department and committee folks, you know, feed them information when they're talking, and so they get all these updates and try to keep it all, you know, straight in their heads and trying to figure out how to present it in a way that's understandable, because we can't even put a value.
No, but that's, I think, part of our job going forward, to try and help the department heads figure out how to make the process a little bit more structured. It's not gonna be perfect, because we're not imperfect people.
I was wondering why the appendix Ds look so much better this year.
He's got it on the side.
Lisa is, you know,
He's
thank you for the shout out, but, we had a conversation recently about if I was still contributing enough for this to be worth my time as a paid person to be here. Cause you're 100% treasure, like the numbers. And the education, you know, too many cooks in the kitchen can be a bad thing, and Lisa has really taken this on. So,
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't tell her I said so.
I will.
All right, any other comments on this question? All right,
I don't know if we want to go into the other,
you wanna talk about this for the upcoming year?
I mean, what we approved was 4 pages. I kept it on.
It's
kind of the
just-
same
It's the same
thing.
information, yeah, it's just broken down by
Yeah.
years. The document before, number 3, yeah. Is the annual budget for 26-27. What those projects that would fall into that year. So, we would see in the budget that we're working on. And this is where it would tell you any funds that we would need to include in our budget. You know, the working budget to either up a reserve fund amount or whatever. That's where this will play into.
So this would basically be, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but this would be basically the document the select board is looking at to make your decisions about which one of these, if any, you're gonna support or ask us to remove, for example,
For the upcoming budget.
for the upcoming
Yep,
budget.
yeah.
Question mark.
From
Yeah.
a practical perspective, you know, the really wonderful thing to see is that aside from the larger projects where we've known for quite some time that we're gonna have to be taking on debt, all of these are essentially probably funded. So from the select board's perspective, you know, it makes it really quite manageable for our board to see this data and make easy, informed decisions about approving projects. It's great.
So at what point or when will the select board make a decision about where you?
I mean, well, that was part of the push to get a quorum tonight. You could, if you wanted tonight, otherwise I would recommend that on the next agenda, because we'd want to know this as we go into budget season, right? That we have a line item for formal approval and then we can begin working on what aspects need to go in the operating budget.
Outside of this evening, when would be the next meeting?
I believe that's timeline review, number 7. Do we want to?
The only reason I'm asking is the Parks and Rec committee is meeting next Tuesday tonight, so if we can make a decision about like just pulling the list for us. That way the select board doesn't have to make a
Right,
formal decision, say no, we're not gonna be there.
yeah.
So we're not meeting until the 14th, I think.
And you've been
Select
conversations
board.
with
Yeah, I've been working with Jean, so the select board meets on the 20th.
Mm.
And the department budgets are actually reviewed the first meeting in November, so there's still
Okay.
time.
Yeah, we could definitely take it up on the 20th if you wanna remove or amend. the
Yeah,
Proposal
we could
before
just,
then.
we could take action on the 14th.
Yeah. that'd be fine.
All right. So we talked a little about item number 6 with respect to the, parking lot boardwalk description. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but we need further discussion on that at this point.
Does it have to come out? The boardwalk, just for safety purposes?
Yeah, some sections of it do, and we could have opportunities.
So there wouldn't be a cost associated with that.
Yeah, I don't believe so, but I can clarify that, next week. You know, if we wanna just withdraw it. But then two, to your point, what needs to be done from a safety perspective is existing.
Have you thought about soliciting idea or soliciting help from other boards? Like
We have had
physical
some-
manual labor?
Yeah, we have had some conversations. I think a lot of it depends on what there has been some discussion about just putting something up on sort of the higher elevation perimeter of it, of the trails. I think really what it comes down to is some of the committee members, you know, it's been there a long time, they're invested in it. But they also understand the issues associated with it being a wetland, and perhaps you just leave it alone. But then when they see the cost associated with replacement, and also that, you know, impacts someone's thinking about what to do. So it's, I think part of it is sort of this evolutionary, getting people to a certain point, and I think we're gonna get there. All right, let's go on to the timeline review. And setting public hearings. We talked about that just a minute ago, with respect to one thing need to be done.
So I think we need to have at least one public hearing, but if there are changes that are made, we have to have a second public hearing. Which is why we moved this whole process up a month, because last year we did it and didn't leave enough time for maybe a second hearing. So,
When you say if there are changes, maybe you mean changes as a result of the first public hearing.
yeah,
So if we get public input, we're kind of like, oh, yes.
yeah. So what did we have for? a public
I think in
hearing?
fairness, you know, and this. This may or may not be very impactful when it comes to this overall proposal, but the larger projects that are included in this. Have already
And approved.
they've already been through several
Mhm.
public meetings here in town. We've already solicited a lot of input and the largest burden, the largest component of getting these projects underway, getting a bond matter approved, we've already heard, so. I guess, I'm hopeful that through the community engagement that's already occurred, that this will be less of a friction point, for feedback. But, I've been wrong before.
I think you might be right.
I like to be hopeful with you,
Yeah.
and the fact that it's well vetted, you
Yeah.
can see where all the choices are coming from, you can see number wise why it makes sense.
Yep, and I think having the data presented in this way where it's very clear that these projects already have funding sources and this isn't gonna be an additional now cost
Right.
on top of, the impact that the bond will have when that final number is determined. I think it will hopefully put taxpayers at ease that these are projects that are meaningful and important, and it makes sense to do.
Mhm.
So, the CIP had guesstimated the first informational meeting would happen the second meeting in October. I don't think that's practical because we're having a hearing for the regulation amendments.
Mhm.
We've already got a hearing scheduled. You already got a
Yeah.
double header. So I think what I'm hearing, Harry and Joe, is that you'd kind of like to push it out and maybe just have,
Plan for one.
Plan for one, thanks. So adjustments, final presentation. You had that the second meeting in November, so we could just go ahead and plan for an informational hearing
And
for this in the second.
I mean, if we wanted to stick closer to the timeline, we could do the first meeting in November, right?
Mhm.
And that would put us a little bit closer in case something strange came up that we didn't anticipate and we absolutely had to have a second one.
It's a little further away from the holidays and stuff too,
Yep.
packing in all the meetings.
Yeah. End of November can typically be tricky for a lot of folks.
So we can move that to the first week of November. What date is that?
first week, full week of November is the
Third,
is the Monday.
November 3rd.
The fourth is, yeah. Was election day, but there isn't one.
Yeah, no.
I wish there was.
Did you say you wanted us to have a third meeting a month? Maybe half asleep, but.
Bigger elections a year, move it.
Well, typically what you do is you have your regular meeting at 5:15 and then you
Right.
warn at 7, the
You just roll to
information.
the next one.
Yeah, so we could, if that works for CIP,
The third,
yes.
I will be out of state that day.
Mhm.
We'll be doing elder care and I'll.
You're a good man, Michael, you're a good man. No, I'm not here,
So that would, I think, be up to the select board's comfort level. If you present this solo or with just a few members of the CIP, it would technically be a select board hearing.
Or we just don't do a double date and we pick a different day when everybody's here. But that's
can find another way.
Yeah, me too.
We, let's not forget we'll have these limits.
She's like, oh no.
Thanks, everybody.
Vote of confidence, Lisa, to let it go.
I have a question on the list for 26. The radar?
The radar signs, Well,
Radar, is
yeah.
it on there?
it's on there. That's the 15,000 that's not funded. If you wanted to move forward.
I'm looking at this, one. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong.
I'm just impressed you can
Page
read it.
7,
Oh, is it not on the yearly plan? Maybe it,
there's a 15,000, but it's the vault door.
I'm bringing it back up.
You're right, it's not.
You're at,
okay, so we'll add that to the yearly,
Good catch.
yeah.
Is that, I can ask a question about that. Is that just the town share, but is the state gonna kick something in for that too?
No.
I think the state indicated that they don't have funds available for this.
We went to Joe, Carl went to Joe Flynn directly and I was brought in.
Tell Flynn about it also. And he indicated to me that
Carl, he was incorrect. Yeah. Please do.
It
And I
would
was
be
surprised by
really
the
great
number
if
of
it
issues.
could.
I thought I'll put up a sign, that'd be it, you know, and there are all kinds of issues that go along.
Sure.
But
Things
not that
easy.
sign.
and didn't you just go through that at the meeting today?
Town fair, yeah. They're probably, the person that was there was a vendor there at the town fair that had the radar signs. So I got a brochure and his card and that kind of stuff. And
Easy peasy. huh?
yeah, it's probably not gonna be 15,000, but.
Good.
it's-
And I,
But that's
probably
and I
under
think
10.
some of the feedback was that they were contemplating making us engage in another speed study. Didn't they mention that?
Yeah, so we have to get an 1111 permit and it would require a speed study, but we found out that Northwest Regional Planning will do that and they won't charge us, but they won't do it until we've agreed to pay for these. Like they don't want to come out and do the work until we know we're actually gonna
The
do it.
recent speed study that we had done for the mileage reduction is now sufficiently stale, so they won't rely on it. It's been a few
The
years.
speed's probably gone up since then.
Well, when you start the survey, let me know, clear the roads.
Ready to stay home?
We'll send Brandy down through with the Mustang.
I can just tell them as fast as they drive by the house.
That's right.
Okay, so Claire had a correction and that was noted, and if we want to go back to scheduling.
Yeah.
So if we want to do an alternate night, it looks like the 7th, which is a Friday. Or November 11th, which is a Tuesday. Would be options based on availability of the space. It's quite busy.
Mhm.
Not that it's critical, but I'm not around for the 7th or the 11th. I'm away most of November.
November, man.
Yeah, I think I leave on the 5th.
Okay. But the 3rd works for you.
I don't think it's your choice.
Yep.
Mr.
I guess it depends upon the comfort level of the select board. Do you want to try and knock that off the same night as another meeting that
Yeah.
we have scheduled, or do you want to have it push it back a week or so?
Would the majority of the CIP be available the 11th? November 11th?
I'm available.
Personally, I like the 7th. I know it's a
Friday.
Friday. But it will probably go very well on a Friday. You guys weren't supposed to laugh. That was a serious thing.
I think you're right, but
Malice of forethought.
does the 7th work?
I'm available the 7th also.
My
Or,
social life
like
dictates
I
I'm
said, I'm
available.
also very comfortable with just going into it without having everybody there. It's pretty well written, so.
Yeah, I will say that personally, Fridays, are tricky for us right now. We're,
Okay,
the
we don't.
viewing over here as well,
Hmm.
on the weekends, number 8. So. Typically, we'll be leaving Friday
Yeah.
and get back Sunday.
I don't like this up much. I think it's just Friday, you know, the weekend.
That's what makes it perfect.
Yeah, he's right. He's complete.
I'm fine with either,
Yeah, care.
so.
How many people are in favor of the, let's just do this, how many people are in favor of the third? Meeting on the third?
But you're not.
I'm not
I'm
there.
not here, so I can't.
And Angie's not here,
Like,
And
mean-
Jim's not here,
And
so it's gonna be,
Jim's not here.
Jim's on.
But at least.
I'm here on the 3rd.
Jim is here.
oh, Jim is here on the
Are you
third.
here on the third, Frank?
It's a Monday. It's the same night as the select board.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah, I'm good with the third.
I'll make a motion that the meeting takes place on the third after the regularly scheduled select board meeting.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it'll be the third. Thank you. I think it'll be fairly straightforward.
Mhm.
Well, this is fairly straightforward, so I think, I think, yeah.
We already have the
It's,
questions, you know, what's the reserve fund mean? Whose reserve fund is it? And some of
oh,
the,
I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, you already have probably one of the biggest questions I remember hearing from last year was just, well, it's a reserve fund, but what does that mean? Where does that money come from? How do-
Yeah.
So it'll be like
Because I know-
7? what
Yes,
we're saying?
I'm gonna warn it for 11/3 at 7 PM.
Thank you for that. Are there any other timeline issues we need to discuss? So following the public hearing, then the select board would have to, would have to take any final action on the plan?
Which would be at your next meeting, is that what you would?
So what is the public gonna comment on if they like the model or not, or if they think the model is appropriate? Is that what?
I get down into the weeds on the model so much as just that the actual, my
Oh.
recollection is I'll be talking about the specific project items.
Okay, so sort of the rank, the priority of the different
How these
items.
rose to the top.
Oh, okay.
Or, more commonly, the feedback that we would get at a meeting like this is, we, we are concerned about the expenditures. You're spending $7 million. Are there any of these projects that you can kind of nix for this year? And if you do nix them, does that have a positive impact on tax? burden?
Yeah, do you get a relief?
Right.
Tax
So
relief.
if,
Right.
if we were to reassess or postpone, is that going to be meaningful in terms of the overall tax burden carried?
Think you know the answer.
And because the majority of this money is already in the coffers, the answer to that question would be very clear, no. The money's there, it's allocated. These are projects that have been prioritized by the individual committees. We're coming to present this as an overall budget, select board's behind it, CIP has analyzed this, we've analyzed it, department heads have analyzed it. Hopefully all the municipal subdivisions will be here, and so if there are specific questions about the merits of the project, they'll step up and they'll defend their projects and.
And we'll be able to speak to what's left in the reserve after all the funds are
Right,
allocated, so people know
yeah,
there still is a reserve, so we're not,
And not spending
we're gonna
it
have to
all.
be taxed, we're not spending everything.
yeah, what I've seen, that reserve fund should be mostly intact, right? There won't be a great deal of, there won't be a great deal diving into that money, right? Because it's really there for emergent issues.
You're talking about the town reserve.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
town.
right.
reserve,
Yes,
Mhm,
And
Right?
just- that'll be important to people.
It will,
Sure.
right? Just to say, hey, this money, the big chunk that went into this money for, for kind of emergent needs is not going to be used to fund the projects that are presented here. These are already funded projects for the most part,
so it won't take much money to bring the reserve back up.
if any at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
We don't, based on what I've reviewed here, it doesn't look like that fund is going to be necessary, not one penny. The only new money and in terms of increasing taxpayer burdens is the debt load associated with the bond.
Mhm.
And we won't really know what that looks like until we have a defined project cost and we see what the bond pool rates are like in December. So that's gonna be the question. How much is this gonna increase my tax bill? Unfortunately, we're gonna have to use it. I would say the same thing we've been having to say, select board level, we don't know yet, but we will know eventually.
And just as a reminder, the informational meeting is required in statute. So that's really, and I think we're in an unusual situation where we are having to make difficult decisions that could greatly impact. In my research as we were building this, I mean, there are some towns that they fund their CIP with almost $500,000 every year. And there's a lot of discussion over which projects get to go in that, and it's a huge line item. So I think the statute, 251 towns, the statute's broad and covers everybody, and we've done some really great planning in North Hero, so.
And for a lot of years, the question was, why are you holding that money back,
Mhm.
right?
Now you know.
Why don't you return that to the taxpayers?
Right.
And this is,
Now you
I
know.
mean, this is the answer, right? We can fund these projects without coming to you and asking for more tax dollars every single year.
Does the select board have a policy in terms of the percentage of the reserves as in relationship to the total budget, or how's the reserve funded?
So we do, I think, what was it? Was it 15?
15%.
Yeah, so there's the recommended range is between 10 and 20. And ours is 15% of the budget in the year that it was funded. And we have kind of a floating policy at this point. We don't have a fixed percentage base requirement because it's a relatively new fund.
Yep.
And we want to see
How it behaves.
how it
Yes,
behaves.
yes.
The contingency.
And if 15 ends up being a number that over time we conclude is a little bit too high, there's an opportunity there for us to take a portion of that contingency reserve fund and either pay down the tax rate or fund some other projects that, would otherwise require going bonds.
Tomorrow, right? Yeah, that's a selling point also to the taxpayers. If we can pay for something with cash as opposed to straining it out over 20 years, we're saving everybody.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the analysis of interest paid, and we're just looking at,
Yeah.
these projects, if you go from, a 10 to a 30-year bond, it's staggering how many millions of dollars it costs to pay for that project over time. And proactive planning and, sanding away money for projects like this one in advance
Makes a difference.
millions of taxpayer dollars here instead of on debt service.
Lisa's been working really hard to put everything we've been saving in CDs, so it's actually the opposite.
Generating.
Yes.
Yeah. We're renewing those CDs a lot. The interest earned over the past 5 or 6 years, it's gotta be several $100,000 at this point.
This year alone was like, what? 103 or something like that,
And maybe
130.
2 years that we,
So,
That's
having
it's significant.
that money there, it's, you're at least beating inflation for the most part.
All right. Any other questions, comments about anything we've discussed this evening?
Can I make a couple of comments?
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
So for the select board, where we're talking about the capital plan being a useful tool, obviously you can see Appendix F, which is the short term, what's your next year's budget, all the projects that are anticipated and ranked and so on. So that's a very helpful tool for you as you start looking at the short term next year's budget. The advantage of a 5-year plan is, let's say there's a project for $500,000, which would represent about 5% of the annual operating budget. If that's a priority and it falls out of the blue, well, you may have to increase taxes that year by 5%. But if it's put in the capital plan 5 years out, you do a 1% increase in taxes, just a one-time 1% increase that you let go through those 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, you've got that same 5% that's been set aside through the reserves. And so you're kind of smoothing it out for the electorate, and maybe you don't get nearly the amount of pushback. So to me, that's the real advantage of a 5-year plan. And what we've all been talking about is trying to get the departments to understand the importance of getting onto that 5-year plan so that there's surprises can be managed and not be bad news in the short term. The other advantage of a capital plan, right now, there's all sorts of departments that have their own reserve funds. But once you get into a long-term plan, there's the opportunity to reduce the number of those reserve funds. And yes, you'll still create reserves, but they can go into a central reserve fund. And what that allows you to do is, again, you've got your 5-year capital plan, you do your budget, and let's say there's a project that was put in the budget, but that for whatever reason, engineering grants, it's going to be delayed a year. But that was going to originally come out of their reserve fund. Well, now there's the opportunity for some other department to take those funds in the short term for a project that they were going to do maybe in year 2. So by having one big pool of funds, it allows you some more flexibility in the way you're funding these projects, and hopefully also simplifies the bookkeeping and tracking all these different funds at the administrative level. If you move in that direction, I know people are going to say, well, you can't take my reserve fund away. And you're absolutely right. The people who already have their reserve funds, that's their reserve fund. But what it means is when their project comes due, the majority or all of their project gets funded out of that reserve fund, which makes it easier for them to get funding because the funds are already there. But then going forward, once you've wiped out that individual department reserve fund, well, they then move into the general pool of funds. So I think that that's something maybe to think about as to how to get some more flexibility and simplify things going forward. And then you can start looking at the reserves building each year relative to the capital plan. And again, it'll give you a better sense as to whether you need to be tweaking taxes now, or will you definitely be generating a surplus every year for the next few years, which would allow you to give some of that surplus back in terms of reducing tax or increasing taxes at a slower rate. Just throw that out for consideration.
Man, very good point, Jim. You brought up another thing real quickly, and that is, at least at the small scale of the library, we're still figuring out, we'd separate donations from our reserve fund. And over the years, the donations have been part of the operating budget. And so what percent of that has been, feeding our reserve? And it's the small numbers, but still it's something that I think we're still evolving in terms of how we manage that part, that revenue stream. Call it something simple, but how we do that, how we manage it, how we receive them, what we do with them once we get them. So that's a piece of
Yeah,
work.
I think just to be clear, donations would be totally separate from the reserve fund. And I think donations are critical for departments to be able to act almost unilaterally with spending those funds so that they can then kind of reinforce and reward the donors who made those contributions.
But right now, Jim,
and
they're
give them the
part of
recognition. Yeah, and satisfaction. Yeah, absolutely. Donations are totally separate.
they're in the operating budget right now, they're line item for us. So that's what we have to figure out, but you're absolutely right.
And they're erratic, right?
Oh, yeah, it's based on book sales and little
Yeah, yeah.
donations here.
Is that common reserve fund for all departments or for the town? Has that been
They're
discussed
just the library.
at the select board level?
The reserve funds are by department,
Has there been
and there was a
discussion at all?
discussion at one point of lumping them together, and it was decided not to. And actually, the Public Works had about 900,000, I forget the number they had. But in any case, the voters voted to keep it in that fund.
Yeah. But a lot of the discussion and actions that we've had have not been predicated with us having that reserve fund. The reserve fund's new. So I would think people's thinking is gonna be changing on that.
You mean the contingency
Hmm?
reserve?
Yeah.
We just have to figure it out.
Not whether to have a fund, but how we deal with the fund, right,
Yeah,
will
yeah.
evolve.
Yeah.
I think it'll all evolve in the end and we'll end up in that direction. I think it's just this has been a big, hard pill for a lot of people to swallow that aren't familiar with the CIP. So,
And I think to Jim's point, territorialism about the dollars that you've been watching in your own reserve is a difficult thing to get past.
Yeah.
But with some of the larger projects that we've got beginning now, a few of those big reserve funds are going to be depleted,
Mhm.
right? And if it puts the municipality in a maybe a more reasonable starting position to say, hey, why don't we take a hard look at this and maybe reconfigure? If it does make sense, we still use the same scoring. The money is still available for projects. But instead of managing all these separate reserves, you have, kind of central reserve fund.
Yeah.
I think Lisa would appreciate it. maybe.
Less reserve fund, sure.
And if we could do something nice for Lisa in return for everything she does for us.
Take them off.
All right. So future agenda items and for the CIP committee, our meeting is the 22nd, is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think I already actually have the draft agenda, so, yeah, 22nd.
Second. Anyone have any specific agenda items for consideration at that meeting?
Just what we're gonna present at the public hearing, I
Public
guess.
hearing, yeah.
It may be too early to do this now, but again, back to the kind of like a continuing educational process with the departments about the forms, how to make them even clearer going forward, more consistent. So that when we are ranking them, we're really helping them make good choice. So we're gonna figure out how to do it.
You're right, or what projects to pursue.
Right.
We're looking at the ranking, I mean,
Yes.
if that's what the town is gonna consider.
Yeah.
Your projects better,
Better match that.
yeah,
That's right.
Good point.
We can also add,
Doesn't have to be next meeting, we just
Yeah.
say.
the Parks and Rec response to,
Okay, this is the current draft.
oh, I'm sorry, didn't put.
Pretty full agenda.
What was the
Hazard
number 5 hazard mitigation plan and action items? Was that a follow-up to the conversation we had at the last?
Last meeting,
Okay.
yeah, those were the action items that.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, well, maybe we'll do.
all right, any
Didn't
other,
have dollar amounts for, so they didn't.
right, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Jim, do you have any comments or edits to the agenda for the next meeting?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
All right,
But you do want to add the Parks and Rec follow-ups?
yeah,
Okay.
all right, thank you. And before we adjourn, I want to one more time acknowledge Lisa and Corinne in all their efforts to this committee
No doubt.
and thank
Team
them.
effort, team
Here,
effort.
here.
Thank you. All right, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Angie, a second? Frank, all right, all those in favor?
No.
Aye,
Bye.
meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
It's always a team effort, but you guys do
Thank
take
you all
that
for-
and do